Welcome to Beyond Rent, the property management podcast brought to you by Rent Manager. Each episode, we sit down with an expert to talk industry updates, tech solutions, and top tips for those in the property management space. And now, let's get to the conversation and go Beyond Rent.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Beyond Rent. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about maintenance. It's a really important aspect of our industry, and it changes all the time, right? It seems basic, it seems normal. We've been doing this for a long time, but with technology, things continue to change. And now we are adding an AI, and I think changes are going to come even faster than ever before. So to help us learn more, we have Bo from Lula joining us today. Bo, welcome to Beyond Rent.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming out and spending some time with me. We all know how important maintenance is. We know the volume that the PMCs are dealing with out there and all of the headaches that are tied to maintenance. So it's always great to talk to someone that's really helping solve those problems for our mutual customers. But before we dive into maintenance, let's get to know you a little bit better. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So Bo Lais, founder and CEO of Lula. We have a technology platform that streamlines the maintenance process for property managers and their residents, while also bringing a fully vetted nationwide network of contractors to do the work. And then we try to provide as much visibility as possible for our customers by integrating with their PMS, such as a Rent Manager, to provide real-time visibility throughout the entire life cycle of that work order, from ingestion all the way to completion with instant access to notes and pictures.
Excellent. And how long have you been doing that over there at Lula?
We initially started as a B2C company, but we've been in property management since 2019.
Excellent. Yeah. Number of years. And I know we were talking a little bit as we got to know each other this morning, kind of doing a tour of the building through our office. 2019 is a very interesting time to make a shift in your business and your business model. But your team's done a phenomenal job. You talked about the growth that your team has had and so forth. And so it's really exciting to watch all of that. And I think that growth is very natural because of some of the changes that have happened in technology and maintenance. And maybe that's a good place to start the conversation. Let's talk about what's happened since 2019 as it relates to the world of maintenance. What would you share are some like big changes that have happened?
Well, I mean, the innovation of technology is certainly advanced in the last few years, especially in this space. It's driving better decision-making processes for sure. Obviously we'll probably talk about AI today. Everyone's talking about AI. But I think this industry is really starting to adopt technology at a rapid pace now. So it's really exciting. But, also I think the resident expectations is really increased. The average rent over the last 4 or 5 years, albeit has cooled down a little bit lately, is still up like 40%, right? And then we live in this on-demand world, right? Like you want something, you want it now, right? You can get a car now, you can get food now. I got a toothbrush the other day when I ordered some food for delivery, right? And I think, that doesn't change in any industry now. If you have a maintenance need and a repair need, you want it now, right? And so expectations are high right now. And so you really got to deliver your service as well. And that's no different for maintenance.
Yeah, I would totally agree. That idea of on demand and high expectations, right? People really do think that things should just happen very, very quickly. Historically, our industry didn't operate that way at all, right? It was actually quite slow in some aspects, right? Especially on the maintenance side, submitting the maintenance request, somebody responding to it, getting it scheduled was a very slow process, and technology is making that go much faster. And one of the things you brought up was the change in rents, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe help me understand that piece as it relates to maintenance a little bit better, because when you start talking about the increase in costs, there are certain things that people gravitate to very quickly. We like to talk about groceries, right? The increase in groceries. We talk about the increase in real estate costs, like if you're buying a home, and then rent, right? Those are really common areas, but really the increased cost is everywhere. What are you seeing on the maintenance side?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's shortage of labor or, it's inflation, supplies are costing more, whether it's supply chain disruption, obviously, the increased interest rates, that you see today has led to some of that. So Yeah, I mean, repairs generally are costing more now than they used to. And I think it's important that property managers have some open dialogue with their asset managers of what things are costing today. But you really need to leverage, technology and buying power to really help control those costs of maintenance. Otherwise, it can quickly spin out of control and you can have upset owners if you aren't having those conversations with them.
Yeah, and that buying power is interesting to think about because depending on the size of your property management company, your buying power could be substantial, right? But in many cases, that's actually not the case, right? There's just not enough volume to really earn some of that buying power. So you're really taking a huge hit when it comes to all of that inflation, all of those increased costs.
Yeah, and something I didn't mention is preventative maintenance too. That can help, lower costs. I mean, there's data that shows you can save 15 to 20% per year per door by performing preventative maintenance, which we can talk a little bit more about here shortly. I think something that, we do for our customers is we have a large network, right? We do around 1,000 work orders a day. So we have enormous buying power. We're doing 30 to 40 HVAC replacements a single day, right? So we have that buying power for customers that may not have it yet, right? And so we've been rolling out this new initiative, which is going to be really important moving forward. We're getting a lot of resources behind it. Is a flat rate service catalog. So we're flat rating HVAC replacements, water heater replacements, appliances, now roofing by the square. We're piloting flat rate drain cleaning in Atlanta. We're getting ready to roll out, toilet replacement, flat rate price, garbage disposal, et cetera. But we go direct to manufacturer because we have such enormous buying power to really drive down the costs, with a carrier, for example, and buy that equipment from them. And then we flat rate negotiate the labor on the pro network side. And so, we can do HVAC replacements on average all day long for around $5,000 for our customers. Whereas, you may get quotes for $7,000 to $10,000 on a daily basis, right? So we're there to try to help drive those costs and provide cost control for customers.
Yeah, that is so interesting because, I often relate things to, our personal lives too, right? This idea of like, what is a good price for something? I wonder that all the time. Like, well, I got a quote. I don't know if that's good or bad. And then if you get 2 or 3 or 4 quotes, then you're trying to understand the value, the quality that you're going to receive. Like, why is this one 30% less? Are they going to do 30% less quality of work?
Sure.
Where flat rate really starts to solve a lot of that. But it help me understand the response that you're getting when you talk to PMCs about this idea of flat rate. Are they liking this idea, or do they feel like they may lose out on some of that negotiation power that they may have tried to have in the past?
Yeah, they love it. So far, we're seeing a lot of adoption, which is why we're getting behind it even more. It's great for them to know if they have the specs of an HVAC system or a water heater, we can give them an instant quote, right? And give them an instant price that they can share with their owner, because speed of repair is super important in this industry too, right? And so going through that quoting process, if you get 1, 2, 3, 4 quotes, which sometimes property managers do that, it can take some time. That entire time is not a great experience for the resident, right? The longer it takes. So we can be that first quote that the property manager is comfortable knowing that we're going to beat out any competitors almost every time, or we can be that instant second quote if they need to provide multiple to their asset owners. And, with the relationships we have with our customers, we're already working with them typically, right? And every day in other work, they have high confidence that we're going to deliver, and, the equipment is quality, the service is quality, and we get behind every single service we do with warranty. So it's worked out very well, and I think customers love it generally. They want cost control. They want to know what things are going to cost. Their owners want to know what things are going to cost. And I think that is where this industry is headed.
Yeah, I mean, one of the hardest things to deal with is the unknown, right? And when you're dealing with a large repair, there's typically a lot of unknowns that are kind of built into that. And you'd mentioned the speed of repair as it relates to the resident experience. And for someone that's only rented, which is a growing trend, right? People are choosing to rent long-term,
yep.
Maybe their entire lives. They really don't want to take on the risk that involves, the costs that are involved in owning a property. Those people a lot of times won't have the full understanding of what's happening, right? All they know is this stopped working.
Yep.
It's your responsibility to fix it. and I don't understand why it takes more than 48 hours to get it fixed.
Yep.
Right. It's almost as simple as that. And I love that you in our industry really is responding in a way that says, well, with technology, we probably can actually do that. There's really no reason we can't do that at this point.
Yeah, we won't be able to flat rate 100% of every repair, right? Because there's some things you just don't know what you're getting into. But the common things, the common repair requests, yeah, I think we absolutely can. I think the more we can expand on that, the better. I mean, one of the first questions we always get from a customer is, what does this service cost? What does this service cost, right? And so being able to expand on that flat rate catalog and give them, this is what it costs, right, is great for them. It's great for their customers. It's great for us.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, let's dive a little bit deeper as far as something that you had mentioned, preventative maintenance. I think that's really, really interesting. It's interesting from the standpoint of we've heard this our whole lives, right? You need preventative maintenance on things to make sure they're running right, that you're getting the most efficiency out of them, you're catching repairs before they break, all of those things. But the reality is most people aren't very good at preventative maintenance, right? We're busy. We don't want to invest the money. We'd rather just wait until it breaks and then fix it. But you had shared a stat, and I want to revisit that. You said 15%,
yep,
right, is what can be saved. So help me understand that math more and kind of what you're seeing on that side.
Yeah, I think, look, we all know that emergency repairs are the more expensive repairs, right? The unplanned emergency AC went out, it's 90 degrees out, I need someone here right now. It could be 10 p.m., could be 1 a.m., could be Sunday. You just don't know, right? You want to avoid those as much as possible. I think, getting your HVAC serviced twice a year, making sure that your filters change, you can identify some smaller things like a capacitor or something like that may need to be changed out before it becomes an emergency service call, right? And that's what you want to avoid. I think there's others too, like having a roof inspection done. Not a lot of people do that, but doing that once a year, if you find a small leak and take care of it, it doesn't cost much, but that small leak can cost a lot of money over years if you don't realize it's there. Another one is, gutter cleaning. We don't see a lot of this, but I think we should see more of it, is that water, when it rolls outside the gutter, rolls into the ground, and then it erodes your foundation over time. Anyone that's listening to this podcast is going to have seen foundation. My basement is leaking, right? Whether it's unfinished or a finished basement's leaking. And a lot of times there are foundation issues that could have been prevented through gutter cleanings, once or twice a year. And if you plan for those in advance, they aren't that expensive. Things become expensive when they're unplanned, when they're reactive instead of preventative, right? And so I think that, we have a lot of customers that will have their customers, their asset owners opt in, and will provide, a very low price to do a bulk HVAC service or gutter cleaning or whatever. It's almost a no-brainer, right? You just have to plan for it, and it can save the asset owner a lot of money. And plus, it's taking care of the property, right? And helping the value of that asset over time.
And I think from a resident experience side, it could be a game changer too. If you are living in a home, whether it's single family, multifamily, it really doesn't matter. And you are seeing continual efforts to maintain the property that are preventative, that are getting ahead of things. Do it, like you said, even as simple as having the gutters cleaned once a year. As a resident, I'm sure you'll feel really good about that, right? Like, I'm actually staying at the right place. I probably should renew. I probably should stay here. Whoever owns this property really does care, and they're taking care of it so I can have a good experience. Where if the only time you see engagement on the maintenance side is when it is an emergency, it almost feels like the opposite, right? They're trying to cut every corner, and they're only going to spend money when they have to. Maybe this isn't the right place for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point. It does make a difference in how that resident feels about the home they're living in. And, empathy is an important piece of this, right? And I think, yeah, absolutely. If you care about the property, show you care about them, it's going to help when the time comes for that lease renewal, right? So, it's a very good point.
Yeah. I just recently, my oldest, he and his girlfriend live in an apartment, and I stopped by for a reason, and I noticed they replaced a lot of the landscaping. And I made that exact comment. I was like, oh, it looks like they're investing in this property. They're working on maintaining it. So if they were to come to me and say, hey, they gave us a rent increase this year, we don't know if we should stay here, I'd probably say, no, stay. That rent increase is going to make sure it's a nice property for you to live in, and people want to have nice places to live. It's very, very natural. So.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about AI, right? It's always the elephant in the room, right? That we all want to talk about. I think even the comment was, it's almost unavoidable to talk about AI in any conversation anymore. So let's talk about it as it relates to what you're doing and what really property managers are doing. So you talked to a lot of customers, you travel quite a bit. How are you seeing property managers use AI right now?
In a lot of different ways, right? I mean, I think we're at this point where it's exciting, but it's also a little scary, right? I think we do have this right now, this shiny object syndrome happening. I think there's a lot of property managers that are either being told or feel like they need to implement AI, even though they may not know what a measurable outcome is for their business for that AI yet, right? So, I mean, we're seeing AI used in a lot of different ways, whether it's, chat bots for answering 24/7 questions from residents, booking tours, leasing and risk analysis. We're seeing it, we leverage it for conversational AI at the front end of a work order so that we can triage that work order as soon as it comes in with the resident. We give them the option to opt out and talk to a real human if they want to, but a lot of them go through and talk to the conversational AI, and hopefully we eliminate a truck roll by helping them self-serve and, reset that garbage disposal or whatever the case. But if not, we have a very nice curated work order with a diagnosis that we know what needs to be done, and hopefully have a high chance of one-trip resolution, which is also another important KPI, right? I think where we're getting into a little bit of trouble, where we're seeing some people get into trouble, is that they don't really have they're choosing AI and applying it to a use case that maybe might not even be a problem in their business, or they're leveraging a partner that really hasn't provided transparency or proper guardrails. So you don't want AI to promise your residents something like, oh yeah, you don't have to pay rent next month, right? Like, you want to make sure you have guardrails around that. You don't want AI to ask them to do something that maybe put them at risk, right? Anything electrical, for example. So I think that you just have to, I think AI aside, I think what's important, what everyone wants is, if they have a problem in their business, then go find the right technology to solve that problem, whether it's AI or not. And AI, there's certainly a lot that AI can do to help, and we're seeing that. But make sure you have a real problem, and then find the right technology solution to solve that problem, and have measurable outcomes to make sure that you have that ROI that you were expecting at the end. I think that's most important. Yeah,
that is such a great take on what's happening with AI. I agree. It is the shiny object right now that everyone's chasing. We have customers all the time that come to us and say, of the partners that you work with, which ones are using AI? And my response often is, my assumption is all of them are using AI in some way. So you probably should ask them how they're using AI, and ask them about their opinion of AI. Because I do think we all are using it in some way, but the question is, like, how are you using it? What is the use case? And AI should not be the number one requirement on your list, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the actual problem you're trying to solve, and can we solve it? Should always be number one.
Yeah, 100%. We've used AI for years before this boom, but we've used it internally, right? So when we talk to our customers, we're focused on what value we can bring to them. It doesn't matter if it's AI is powering that specific piece or not, right? It's about, where's the pain points? How can we help? What are the outcomes that we all want out of this? And that's what we focus on. I think that, a lot of people are grabbing onto this AI concept, and there's a lot of companies that are going to roll with it. It's a buzzword. And I think some of them are doing it well, and there's some that don't really know if they've got a really good use case. What are they solving, right? And I think it's just, you want to be careful to make sure that you have full transparency of, whatever vendor you're using, of, what are the outcomes? What are they leveraging? Is it their own data? Are they training their own models? Is this just open AI? You need to ask those questions, and then make sure from day one you have measurable outcomes. That way, if it's actually influencing, impacting your business the way that you want it.
Yeah, that's great advice that you just gave there. Ask the right questions. The big one that you mentioned is OpenAI versus using their own models and things like that. And I think that's the level of knowledge and education that is starting to happen out there, but it isn't widespread. I know from our viewpoint, we are cautious when it comes to AI and where we implement it and how we're using it in our software, how we use it internally. Because like you said, without guardrails, you can have some really interesting results. And when I say interesting, I say bad. I mean bad. These could really be bad results, because what I have experienced with AI is, in many ways, it's like the ultimate people pleaser mentality, where it wants to give you an answer, and where it can't find the answer it's looking for, it sometimes will start to, I hate to say it, but make up an answer.
Hallucinate. Right?
Hallucinate, right? Yeah, absolutely. So in the world of maintenance, that seems like a slippery slope if you don't have it in the right place.
Yep. We have our own data, we train our own models. We have our brain. We're very transparent with our customers. So, we, as I mentioned, we have a AI work order management platform that, we're going to be heavily commercializing next year. We're very excited about it. A piece of that, an add-on to that, is an AI intake. And so what that is, that conversational AI I mentioned on the front of a work order. And that model, we have our own brain, right? It's data from hundreds of thousands of work orders that we've done. We have guardrails put in place. We're training our own models. And we're so transparent with our contracted customers that leverage that piece of our software that we will open up and show them the brain and the models and the data, and even work with them to manipulate that if they want to change some of the results, right? So I think that's the level of transparency that you need in this industry with AI, and a lot of people don't understand that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Again, great nugget of information there, because the reality is there is so much data out there. When you're using like an OpenAI model, and again, those are great for learning how AI works, maybe tinkering with it and so forth. But one of the struggles is trying to understand how it got to the answer that it got to. And with your own brain that you can go and analyze and evaluate, you can figure it out. So if it does go the wrong direction, you at least can reconstruct it and say, well, okay, now we understand why it thought the thing that it thought and provided that result. And it's great that you're providing that to your customers. I'm sure they love getting a peek behind the curtain.
Oh yeah. It helps build that relationship too, right? And a lot of times there's some good ideas that come out of those sessions, right? So we're all learning this together, right? This is a new muscle for all of us. So we're excited about it. But yeah, I think it's important that guardrails and transparency are part of the conversation.
And you had mentioned that you were really using AI before AI was kind of the buzzword and so forth. And I think that is reality. I don't know how far back it goes within your business, but a number of the people that I've talked to over the years, I mean, we're talking definitely prior to 2019, that there were some AI models and so forth being used in technology. How fast is it evolving at this point? So you've been using this for a long time. So is it exponential is what we're hearing, or is it a little bit slower paced and just more awareness at this point?
It's moving faster than anything I've ever seen in technology. It is exponential. The pace at which it's advancing is a little scary, to be honest with you, right? So yeah, I haven't seen anything move this fast in the technology space.
Yeah, it's exciting, but like you said, a little concerning. So if people have concerns, what are maybe some red flags or things that you have witnessed yourself or you think people should be aware of, where it may create a moment where they actually pause and they kind of take a step back and they start evaluating?
Yeah, I think if anyone's, watch for overpromising, right? If someone's like, we can automate 100% of everything, I would probably start digging in, asking a lot of questions. And there are some out there that say they automate everything, but then if you dig in, you find out there's a lot of human capital that's actually powering a lot of it in the back end. So I think overpromising, not having transparency, like I mentioned earlier, right? Like, explain to me more about your models. What are you using? How are you using it? Is there guardrails? Can I participate in some of that? I think that those are like two important things. And then make sure that not being sold on something that's not going to provide a measurable outcome, right? Like, I think going back to what I said earlier, that's what's most important is don't worry about having AI just for AI's sake, right? Like, that will come. You'll find a place naturally and organically for AI in your business if you focus on your problems and then what technology solutions are out there. And more than likely, AI is going to be a part of it, right? But focus on the problems you have and what outcomes you want to get to, and then decide the right appropriate technology or vendor to help you solve that.
Yeah, and I would think in most cases, the PMC probably shouldn't even be dictating where AI is being used. And not that their input doesn't matter. We love our customers. We love input. Sure. But I would think people like you and your company have probably a better understanding of where AI can be helpful in your tool set than others, right? Like, you're looking at this every day. You understand it. You understand how it's moving. And like you said, a lot of people will just step in right away and say, well, I want an AI tool to do X, Y, Z. And instead you're saying, well, tell me your problems and I'll tell you how I can solve them. Yeah. And I'll let you know where I'm using AI and where I'm not, and maybe where I'm going to use it in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something that we get excited about, an area that we've been playing with for quite a while now is really predictive pricing on diagnosis. So we have the AI intake on the front end, right, where we can get to a diagnosis and curate that work order. We have all this historical data, and we've leveraged machine learning and everything else of, to the market for this service should cost you around X. So as soon as we have that work order, ingested from the resident and gone through that process, we have a predictive price of what this should cost. And we even have what we call a smart NTE that will actually adjust up or down based on that diagnosis as well. I mean, every property manager has seen it where they may have a 250 NTE or a 500, and then they get that invoice for $499 on a 500 NTE for something that may have took 30 minutes, right? So there's a lot of stuff that we're doing that I think is really going to be a game changer for the industry down the road.
Yeah, and that's the part that I get excited about. You talked about preventative maintenance. I once commented that I can see a future where emergency repairs go away outside of, I would say, humans causing the need for an emergency repair. And what I mean by that is we know the lifespan of an HVAC unit, of a garbage disposal, all of these things. Like, the data, like, how quickly things need to be replaced. And maybe, just maybe, they get replaced before they break completely, because we can guess within a 95% accuracy that this is going to fail within the next 6 months. And at that point, you don't wait. You just do it and you move on and not have that emergency repair. Do you see a future of that, or do you think it's going to take a long time to get to a world that looks like that?
I think if we can continue as an industry to, drive down some of those replacement costs like we're trying to do with the flat rate, I think it makes that decision a lot easier, right? It's a mindset. I mean, you have some asset owners that just don't want to replace anything until it finally just breaks. No matter if that HVAC is 36 years old, right? That was maybe a bad example because of refrigerant issues and all that in the space. But anyways, it just really depends on the mindset. But I think that as we continue to, can drive down some of these costs, you implement preventative maintenance, and then it makes those decisions easier, right? Dishwashers and fridges, right? Like, those are easy ones, I think. You don't want to send an appliance pro out, spend a few $100s on something that's well past its lifespan, right? When it can't be warranted, most likely, when it's past lifespan. It's likely going to fail before long, and then you're just going to have to replace it anyways. So I think those decisions are definitely going to start getting easier with the technology that we have.
Yeah, no, I definitely, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I do think we could live in that world, like, especially for, like you said, items that are a lot more predictable, a little bit lower of a cost, right? On the replacement side, where repair almost never makes sense, right? That we can move a little bit quicker on it. So no, that's exciting. So let's talk a little bit more about Lula. We talked a little bit about how you're approaching the whole world of AI, what you're doing with it. But you've been solving problems with maintenance for a while now. So help me understand kind of where your focus is today, going into 2026, throughout the coming year. Where are you headed?
Yeah, I think right now is, like I said, we've been using AI for quite a while. A lot of that's been internalized to drive efficiency through maintenance that we deliver for our customers. We've been working for about a year and a half on externalizing our technology, proprietary technology into a true SaaS product. So it's called Foresight. It's an AI work order management system, really to help drive efficiency for maintenance coordinators, as well as scheduling for W-2 maintenance techs, but also have your third-party vendors in there. And then you have instant access to Lula's nationwide on-demand network as well inside there, all under one roof that integrates with like a rent manager. So you have all that data in real time pushed back in your system of record. So we're really excited about that product. There's a few things. I mentioned the AI, conversational AI intake several times, but we have also, the maintenance coordinator co-pilot and insights that we call it. So when a work order is ingested, it will read all of the information about that property at the property level and tee up the maintenance coordinator if it has a warranty, or if, this HVAC has been worked on, 4 times in the last 6 months. There might be time to replace that. Let's, look into that. Resident responsibility, like at ingestion is the opportunity on the front end of that work order to really make a difference and eliminate an unnecessary truck roll if you can. But then throughout the life cycle of that work order, the co-pilot suggests to the maintenance coordinator of what the next step should be. Right. And then we have, the smart NTE, predictive pricing. We even have a level of QA. So when the work order is closed, AI will look at the images and look at the price and look at everything and, basically say, yeah, this is good to process and pay. And then everything in between, right? There's a lot of different areas that you can implement AI, but I think Foresight we're very excited about because we're externalizing a product to our customers that they can have better efficiency in their business. We talked about, having good use cases, or measurable outcomes, right? We know before we had the technology that we do and the automation that we do, what our gross margin per work order was in our business, right? It was, around 40 to 45% gross margin. With the automation AI over the years that we continually advance, our gross margin is 76%. So out of whatever we make on a work order, right, 76% of that is what we're making because of the automation and efficiencies that we have in the business. And I think a lot of companies, probably major companies that want to internalize some maintenance, like what we're hearing is it's very thin margins, right? It's very hard to make money when you internalize maintenance. It's more for, faster repairs to try to drive down costs for the owners and a better experience. But they want to be profitable in that business, right? So I think Foresight is something that can help them do that, and we've seen it with our own business.
That is some really exciting advancements that are happening, and I do agree when you look at bringing the maintenance in-house and things like that. A lot of it is more of like an experience play, right? How do we have a little more control over how the resident feels, how the owner feels about different things, and the elements that are there. But we all need to be profitable in our businesses, right? So How do we manage both sides of that? And one of the things that, I picked up on there was this idea of those insights and the data. And it kind of goes back even before AI, but AI is more subject to this than anything, is all of this technology is only as good as the data that it has access to. Meaning you reference like, is it under warranty? Well, the warranty information has to be somewhere for AI to know if it's under warranty, and how many maintenance service issues were tied to this HVAC system in the last 6 months. Well, it has to be able to see that, right? And all this interconnected data is so important. We've said for decades that data is king. Data is even more king than ever before. But that data has to be right. It has to be accurate. It has to be entered in a way that is retrievable and readable and all of these things. How do you see us as an industry getting better data? Because I'm sure you run into this all the time, is we could have answered this question, but the data just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, we're running into that every day, right? With our customers. A lot of them have it somewhere, right? A Google Doc or, PDF or whatever the case. And what we're really trying when we're going through these conversations, like the AI is really only as good as the data, right, that it could consume. And so we try to get them to put it in their system of record, right? And then get them into the habit of doing that, because the value that they can see from having all that data in a rent manager or their system of record is substantial, right? And so, we don't see it very often. It's very rarely we come across a customer that has all of their data up to date in their system of record at all times, right? And so it's just a little bit of a habit change, but I think now they have compelling reason to do that, because it's going to help avoid mistakes that their coordinators are making on the front end of a work order. If you have a customer, an asset owner that you're managing their property for, and they have a home warranty, and you send out an appliance pro, an HVAC pro, they aren't going to be happy. And who's eating that bill? Because the coordinator on your team missed the fact that that property has a home warranty, right? And so it's really important to get this data in your system of record, in our opinion, and then you can really do some magical things with AI around it.
That is a really good point you made there, that now there's a compelling reason to put the data in the system of record in a rent manager or whatever the case may be. Historically, it was okay if Bo just had all the answers, right? He had memorized all the warranties, or
right.
Like you said, had a spreadsheet or a sticky note on his computer. All of that was fine, because having the data in the system didn't actually provide that much of an advantage to having it maybe somewhere else. You could argue, there still was an advantage, but it was a small advantage. Now it's a massive advantage. And so I would say, if people are learning anything from our conversation, your data's got to be clean. It's got to be up to date. If you are asking people how they're using AI and their technology solution to get better, more efficient answers, they probably will be limited by the quality of data that they're providing to you.
Yeah. And we want all of our customers to be successful, because their success is our success. So we're going to find out where that data is kept, and we're going to help them get it into their system of record, and then help them with the process to keep it updated. And then the value is very significant for them. But we absolutely run into this every single day. It's all over the board of where this data is kept.
Yeah. Now, I appreciate that you said that you're willing to help and point out, and it goes back to that AI conversation of understanding the logic and how the AI got to the answer that it got to. If you can recreate that scenario, kind of unpackage it, you could say, oh, this is why it didn't know that there was a warranty, right? It's because the data wasn't there for it to read. So going forward, if you can enter that data into your system of record, this won't happen again. The AI will see it, right? Because it did it. It looked for it. It didn't find it. It sent out a pro.
Yep, absolutely. I think also with AI, something else that's pretty exciting is auto dispatching, right? You can learn skill sets of your W-2 techs or vendors. Have access to their calendars, see what they have available, see what geolocation that they're working in. Getting all that data in real time, as you ingest that work order, and then be able to auto assign it right to the right W-2 tech or vendor is pretty cool. I think our intention by the end of next year is to get to a place where 50% of work orders that come into the system are never touched by a human all the way to completion. Again, you're always going to have those problematic jobs, so you're never going to get to 100%. But we strongly believe that we can get to a place by the end of next year where 50% of work orders that are ingested into your system get all the way through to completion without ever being touched by a human. And now you're talking about some substantial efficiency gains.
Yeah, that would be massive. So let's walk through that just real quick. What that looks like is the resident submits the service issue.
Yep.
AI chat is verifying things, asking questions, validating what's happening, what's not happening.
Yep.
Once it dictates, hey, I understand that your toilet needs to be replaced.
Yep.
It knows that there's a flat rate agreed upon.
Yep.
And it knows the vendor that can do it.
Yep.
And it knows their calendar.
Correct.
It schedules it.
Correct.
They complete the work. The invoice comes in and it gets paid.
That's right. Right. So there's a level of trust you have to have on the QA piece, right? But I think if you get to a point where you're comfortable, then you're talking about it's ready to be paid, right? Work's done, everyone's happy. Obviously, there's a lot of communication that goes back and forth between, the resident and obviously the property manager, and all that. Communications is important through that piece. But yeah, I mean, you can get all the way through an entire work order without even knowing it happened, right? And everyone had a great experience and everyone's happy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a fun future to think about. And as we kind of turn the corner towards the end of the episode here, anything that you want to leave us with as far as that future is concerned? Like, we've talked a lot about what you're doing today, which is phenomenal, the nationwide network, all the automations and AI that you have in place today. When we really think about the next, maybe further out 3 to 5 years, you mentioned 50% where humans aren't touching it. Yeah. Where does this end? I mean, is there really an end in sight, or is it just going to keep growing?
I think it's going to keep growing. I think, we're going to move into this era of more predictive maintenance, right? Instead of reactive maintenance. And I think that voice AI, we haven't talked much about that, but a lot of people are using it today. That's going to get much better. We incorporate some voice AI today for triage as well, or to follow up after a work order is done to make sure the resident's happy, right? So voice AI is going to become a more integrated part of our tool set. But where I think, and this may scare some people, but I think robotics and humanoids are much closer than we realize. I think that we're going to start seeing some of that in the next 5 to 10 years, especially on larger multifamily sites, whether it be delivering packages, inspections, cleaning, some light exterior maintenance work. We aren't that far from that. In 10 years, I'm making a prediction now, in 10 years, there's going to be robotics and humanoids on multifamily sites, and maybe even in the single family. I think that'd be a little bit harder adoption, but I think we're going to start seeing it. I mean, you already have robotics that are mowing lawns, right? I mean, so it's really, when you think about it, it's not that far off, but I think that is the future. We'll start seeing some of that.
Yeah, I mean, you think in airports, right? A lot of airports have the ability to have food delivery and so forth by robotics, right? Yep. How is the multifamily building very different than that? I don't really think it is. So, that's a very interesting world to think about.
A lot of package sorting going on at campuses and multifamilies now using robotics. Yeah, so it's happening.
Yeah, that's a fun world to think about, at least ponder about. And I agree. I think it'll probably be here faster than we realize, and faster than some people are ready for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if people are listening to this and they want to learn more about you and Lula and what you're up to and how you really are changing that whole maintenance experience, what should they do? What's the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, I think the best way is just go to our website, lula.life. That's .life. You can contact us through there, and we'd be happy to chat about how we could potentially help you.
Excellent. Well, we really appreciate your time. I know we see you and your team at events all throughout the year, supporting the industry and educating people on what's coming, what's happening now. So definitely appreciate your time today, specifically to dive in and understand more, again, about the current state as well as the future state, and maybe some robots around here.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, thanks again for your time today.
Appreciate it, Joe.
Yeah, and thank you to our audience for listening to another great episode. And until next time, keep going beyond rent.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Beyond Rent. If you enjoyed this podcast, spread the word on social media and with your peers in the industry. To be notified when more episodes are released, subscribe using your favorite podcast player. Beyond Rent is brought to you by Rent Manager Property Management Software. Learn more about Rent Manager's industry-leading software solutions at rentmanager.com. Until next time, keep going beyond rent.